By now, Sarah Johnson had learned that survival was not the same as freedom. She was living in a new apartment, raising her kids alone, working long hours at the diner, and doing everything she could to start over. But fear was never far behind. It followed her like a shadow she couldn't shake, one shaped like the man she once loved. After the incident with the rose and the note, Sarah believed the police would finally help. She had done everything right, reported the threats, saved the messages, kept a record of every call. She even gave them Mark's car make, model, and license plate number. But days turned into weeks and nothing happened. No follow-up calls, no extra patrols, no protection. Her restraining order might as well have been a piece of paper in the wind. One night, after a long shift at the diner, Sarah walked to her car in the dimly lit parking lot. She glanced around, her senses on high alert. The streets were empty, except for the faint hum of streetlights and the chirp of crickets. She opened her car door and froze. A small photo lay on the driver's seat. It was of her and the kids taken years ago at a county fair. The edges were torn, and across it, in black ink, were 3 words, "You're still mine." Sarah dropped the photo, her hands shaking uncontrollably. She knew immediately who had left it. At the police station, the next morning, she tried to file another report. The officer at the front desk looked tired, distracted, and uninterested. "Ma'am, do you have proof he was the one who left it?" "He has a restraining order," she replied. "Isn't that enough?" The officer sighed. "We can't arrest him unless we catch him in the act. You could install security cameras or maybe move again." Sarah stared at him, speechless. Move again? She'd already left everything once. How many times could she start over before she ran out of places to hide? That night, she barely slept. Every creak of the apartment made her heart race. At one point, she thought she saw a shadow outside her window, but when she looked again, it was gone. In the morning, she found muddy footprints near her back door. The latch had been tampered with. This time, she didn't call the police. She called Maggie, the woman from the shelter. Maggie's voice was calm but firm. "Sarah, I believe you, but you have to protect yourself. Don't wait for them." She gave her a small camera to set up by the door and taught her how to store the footage. Sarah also bought a cheap motion light and installed it outside. For the first time, she realized what so many victims of abuse already knew sometimes: the system doesn't save you. You have to save yourself. A week later, while picking up her children from school, Sarah noticed a familiar car parked near the gate. The same gray Honda Civic, windows tinted, engine running. Her heart dropped. She hurried the kids inside her car, locked the doors, and drove straight to the police station. "He's here. He's outside their school. I have the restraining order." The officer on duty looked out the window, then shrugged. "By the time we get there, he'll probably be gone." "You know how these things go." Sarah's voice broke as she said, "He's stalking me. What will it take for him to kill me first?" The officer didn't meet her eyes. He just said, "We'll file a report." That night, after putting the kids to bed, Sarah sat on the couch, staring at the ceiling. Anger replaced fear. For the first time, she wasn't crying, she was furious. She opened her journal, flipped to a blank page, and wrote at the top, "If anything happens to me, it was Mark." Then she detailed everything: dates, times, photos, police reports, names of officers. If the system wouldn't protect her, she would make sure her story couldn't be ignored. The next few days were strangely quiet. No texts, no sightings, no signs of Mark. Part of her hoped he had finally given up. Another part knew better. She started walking to work with a friend from the diner, Denise, who insisted on keeping her company. Denise was loud, funny, and fiercely protective. "Girl, if that man shows up, he's gonna wish he hadn't." It made Sarah laugh, something she hadn't done in weeks. But peace never lasted long. On a Friday night, as she was closing up the diner, a man in a baseball cap walked in just before closing. He didn't speak at first. He just watched her. Something about his build, his posture, made her blood run cold. When he finally looked up, she saw the faint scar on his jaw, the same one she'd seen every day for years. "Mark." Sarah's voice caught in her throat. "We're closed," she said quietly. He smiled, that same calm, charming smile he used to disarm everyone around him. "Just wanted to talk." Before she could move, Denise stepped out from the back, sensing the tension. "Buddy," she said, "we're closed." Mark glared at her, then turned his attention back to Sarah. "You think they can protect you? You think this little act is going to last?" Denise grabbed the phone and started dialing 911. Mark turned and walked out, slow, deliberate, unbothered. By the time police arrived, he was gone again. The responding officers took notes, nodding along but unmoved. One of them said, "He didn't touch you, right? So technically, there's no assault. We'll keep the report on file." Sarah couldn't believe what she was hearing. Her abuser had violated a restraining order shown up at her workplace, and still, nothing would be done. She looked the officer dead in the eyes and said, "When he kills me, just remember this conversation." He didn't reply. That night, Sarah cried harder than she had in months. Not because she was afraid, but because she felt invisible. Her story was like thousands of others, lost in paperwork and policy. But she refused to give up. She reached out to a local advocacy group, Voices United, run by survivors who fought for legal reform. They offered her an attorney, a woman named Rebecca Green, sharp, compassionate, and relentless. Rebecca listened quietly as Sarah told her story. When she finished, Rebecca said, "You've done everything right. Now it's my turn. We'll make them listen." Together, they began building a stronger case: evidence, police negligence, documentation. Rebecca filed motions for emergency enforcement and pushed the district attorney's office to review Mark's violations. For the first time, Sarah felt like someone was standing beside her, not above her, not judging her, but fighting with her. She began to believe again that maybe, just maybe, justice could exist for people like her. Weeks later, Mark was finally arrested, not for assault, but for violating the restraining order multiple times. It wasn't much, but it was something. When Sarah saw the news of his arrest, she didn't cry. She didn't smile. She just exhaled a long, quiet breath she'd been holding for years. That night, she tucked her children into bed, kissed their foreheads, and whispered, "It's over," but deep down, she knew this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning of another battle, because for every Mark behind bars, there were 1,000 others still walking free. And for every Sarah who survived, there were others who never got the chance.